Naughty Dog's blockbuster hit game The Last of Us is getting a sequel, as announced at last year's E3. The Last of Us is without a doubt one of the most important and critically acclaimed narrative games in recent history, and its Part 2 has been highly anticipated ever since the first game was released. The previous E3 trailer showed us an older Ellie, with hints to a revenge plot, along with a preview of additional characters that will be appearing in the game. Speculations have been all over the place, but now we finally have some answers. Here's everything you need to know about what Sony revealed about The Last of Us Part 2. Sony began the conference off with a musical tribute to the game set in a church tent with lights strung up above the audience. The tent they were in matched the cinematic scene's location in the new trailer that we saw of the game, in which Ellie is there at a gathering, leaning up against a bar, watching people in the crowd dance. Her attention is captured by one woman in particular in a fuchsia shirt, and she has a conversation with a friend who makes note of how hard Joel has been on him whenever he's on patrol with Ellie. From last year's trailer, we know we'll be introduced to more characters overall, so this wasn't too much of a surprise. The focus of the cinematic then moves on to some serious sexual tension as the young woman in fuchsia pulls Ellie on the dance floor. They have some very endearing and very human exchanges, which turns into a bit of flirting, which turns into a kiss. But before we can see more, the cinematic drastically transitions into a scene of Ellie cutting a man's throat. This leads into gameplay featuring a lot of stealth. Ellie moves through a marsh, creeping through the foliage, surrounded by several men in raincoats, and bodies hanging from trees. The gameplay overall focused heavily on a combination of stealth and melee combat, and it looks like we're getting everything we loved about the first game once again. A few things have changed though. The bow and arrow combat system is more advanced, and it appears that Ellie can hide under cars and move between tighter spaces like store shelves. As the narrative in the gameplay progressed, we see a scene of a hooded man stabbing an individual hanging from a derelict lamppost, which looked a little similar to the location that we saw in one of the trailers from last year's E3, but that one took place at night. Back to Ellie though. A scream sounds in the distance and the enemies begin to spread out. This is when we get some stealth combat examples. Ellie with her bow collecting supplies as she moves through a parking garage filled with enemies. Soon she's spotted, and we get a glimpse at melee combat, and Ellie flees into tall grass to hide once again. From here she's evading foes, gets shot in the shoulder with an arrow, and takes cover in an abandoned store, where she must knock out several opponents using her stealth abilities. Ellie knocks them all off and brutally kills one of the foes, striking him with a blade to the throat. We then transition back to the earlier cinematic, with Ellie and her love interest finishing their kiss, with her telling Ellie, "See, I told you, they should be terrified," and the preview ends there. Gotta love that Naughty Dog storytelling. But on the grimmer side of things, perhaps her new love is the reason why she sets out on a quest for vengeance, which is what was hinted plot-wise in the initial trailer that came out last year. But one major question hangs over Sony's presentation. Where's Joel? Joel was noticeably absent from this trailer, but we did get mention of him from Ellie's friend at the start of the cinematic. The initial trailer screened at last year's E3 did show a shadow of Joel interacting with Ellie, who sat on a bed in a derelict house, surrounded by a bunch of dead enemies playing guitar. In case you forgot, that's where the revenge plot was revealed, with Ellie articulating a desire to kill every last one of them. We can only assume that Joel will still be very present in this game, but that the narrative will be more focused on Ellie's story. So, what about a release date? Well, nothing was announced at the conference, but considering the game has been in the works for a while, here's hoping that we'll get some news sooner than later. Alright, there we have it guys. Are you all excited for The Last of Us Part 2? How do you think Ellie's story will tie into what we've already learned from previous trailers? And how do you think Joel will fit into the mix? Give us all your thoughts and feels in those comments below. And for all things E3 and gaming in general, from highlights, news, and updates, make sure you subscribe to Top 10 Gaming. Thanks for watching everybody.